And also, I would like for you guys to know that I'm putting together a task force. I need 5 to 7 people, hopefully out of this room, that will help me with this task force. And we're going to meet around the state and involve the citizens of the state in input for a recommendation to the legislature. And so if any of you would like to be on that, let me know before this is over.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. I'm a professor. You'd be surprised how difficult it is to get students to actually say good morning to you when you walk into the classroom. Maybe it's just me. Good morning. I'm Andrew Spiropoulos. I'm professor of law at Oklahoma City University School of Law. I'm also an adjunct scholar of the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs. And we're here this morning to discuss specifically the problems in Oklahoma and solutions in Oklahoma. As we heard this morning, Oklahoma has a lot of problems with regards to the initiative and citizen legislating, which is a great irony considering Oklahoma was born in 1907 with a great belief in the power of the people to govern. Our Constitution is a very populist one, and Ron Calzone mentioned earlier about the language of our petition provision in the Constitution. What it actually says, and I think it's actually quite powerful, is that the first power reserved in regards to legislation is reserved to the people for legislating. Maybe not as well crafted, but it's certainly a powerful statement. And as we've seen in the morning, we have so many barriers. The number of signatures, currently 140,000 to enact a constitutional provision. The 90 days, the shortest period, the second shortest period of time in the country to gather that incredibly large amount of signatures. The vague and difficult rules regarding the residency requirements to circulate petitions. And I think even worse than that is the arbitrary and capricious enforcement and interpretation of the provisions regarding the Constitution by our executive branch and our judicial branch. Although we're going to talk a lot about the Attorney General Edmondson, and I think there's a good chance, the good news is a good chance that he won't be Attorney General much longer. The bad news is he's likely to be the next governor. Well, but I think that's something that we need to confront in this panel, is the political culture that produces that problem. And I think one of the things we need to confront in the discussion is in regards to the interpretation of these provisions by state courts, is to remember that state judges in particular are a member of the political class that the initiative referendum process is meant to control and check. So that is something that we really do need to consider. Keep in mind that over the last few years, the Oklahoma Civil Rights Initiative, the Tabor petition, the 65% to classroom education, all those provisions got struck down. Strange. I'm guessing the teachers' union provision that is just being submitted isn't going to get struck down by the courts. So that's something that we need to confront and talk about. Luckily, we have an extraordinarily distinguished panel of Oklahomans to discuss this issue. We have Senator Randy Brogdon, Republican from Owasso, who's been a leader in the legislature. He's been a leader in the legislature on both encouraging direct democracy and on taxpayer rights, including Tabor and transparency in spending. We have Pat McGuigan, known to all of us, managing editor of the City Sentinel, former chief editorial writer and editor of the Daily Oklahoman, the author and editor of 9 books, including one on the politics of direct democracy. We have Norm Sapp, who we've met, the executive director of the Oklahomans for Initiative Rights, a citizen activist for almost 20 years, based out of Cleveland County. And we have Bob Sullivan, a successful oil and gas businessman, person who's held high office in state government, and was the leading proponent of the 65% initiative that got struck down by the courts. Please help me and welcome you.
Good morning. Good morning. You know, I remember my first month after being elected to the Senate 6 years ago. I came home one weekend and I was kind of moping around the house, and I'm usually pretty upbeat and jovial, and my wife could tell there was something wrong. She said, "What in the world is the matter with you?" And I said, "Well, honey, I've been up there for a month already, and not everyone agrees with me yet." I've been 6 years serving the people of Oklahoma, and not everyone in the state legislature agrees with me, but we're making a little bit of progress. And before I go any further, I want to introduce my favorite person on this side of the turnpike, my favorite person in state government, and it's my assistant right here, and my professional photographer, Cindy Sullivan. Cindy has been with me from day one, and she is commonly referred to as the Capitol Enforcer. And for those of you that know her, you know that's probably correct. You know, I know that there are many of you that have been in this fight, not just for the INR, but for freedom and for liberty, a lot longer than I have been. I have obviously been awakened over the last several years to the devastating effects that have taken place in this state and around the country when it comes to our freedom and our liberty. And the initiative referendum is one of those areas that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. But, you know, I've asked myself a million times over the last half dozen years, you know, what chance do I have to make a difference? And some of you have probably been in the trenches and in the battle for many, many years, and you probably wanted to say, can you make a difference? Do you have just the slightest hope, the slightest chance of making a difference in this fight for freedom? One of our brilliant legal scholars recently stated, she said, one honest voice can be louder than the crowd. That was Reese Witherspoon in Legally Blonde 2, by the way. Now, I'm not sure about the messenger, but I tell you, I love the message because I am convinced. One honest voice, just one person, one individual standing up to fight can make a difference. And my hat's off to you. You know, my goodness, you came out here on a Saturday morning and you know, life is busy. I recognize that. It's already been mentioned. Many of you work 50, 60, 70 hours a week. You have a family, and you know what? It is difficult sometimes to pry yourself out of that lazy boy to come to a meeting like this. But I usually end my talks with what I'm getting ready to tell you, but I want to preface my remarks by sharing with you something important. If you don't remember anything else that I say today, remember this. And before I say it, let me apologize. Or not apologize, but I want to offer full disclosure. I am a politician this morning, and I'm the only one in here, I think. Representative Mike Reynolds is here. He just stepped in. Tell you, I look at serving the people a lot different than too many of our politicians. I look at it as a pure public service, direct from the heart. That's the only reason I'm here. You know, I wound up losing my business. I had to sell it after I was elected to the Senate. I thought I was smart enough to handle both of them, but I figured out quite rapidly that I couldn't do both. And it is a sacrifice at times. You have to sacrifice. But here's the good news, and I want to make sure you understand this. Politicians will not determine the future of this country. You and I. It's we the people. We will and we can make the difference if we're engaged. So thank you this morning for being engaged. I want to talk about a few things that we have done in Oklahoma, things that I have been personally involved in. Ballot access. That is the theme for the day, and I'll start off with that, but I just want to talk about a couple of other issues as well. I have ran ballot initiatives. I have also ran ballot access. For those of you outside the state of Oklahoma, you may not realize that Oklahoma was the only state this year in the country that only had 2 candidates that we can vote on for president. And there's a reason for that. It's the two-party system. It is, we want to control, and I say we collectively, certainly not me. I have ran a ballot access bill every year that I've been up here. And